The views and opinions expressed by guests on this show are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of myself or our sponsors. Well, hello everybody. This is Shannon, and you're on the podcast Homes Off Script. This is our inaugural episode, full-length episode, and I have Buck Fleming here with Integrity Inspection Service out of East Tennessee, the Knoxville area, I believe, is what you told me.
Yes, sir.
So welcome, and like we kind of talked about in the pre-show, it's kind of half scripted, or not scripted, but kind of, I got some talking points from you and stuff, but we're just going to kind of sit here and shoot the bull for a little bit and let people get to know you, and two, talk some inspection stuff and how the industry is going. So quick introduction there. Why don't you expand on that a little bit and let us know a little bit about you?
Okay, so I'm Buck. I own Integrity Inspection Service out of Knoxville. We originally started out the company with like this other name that really sucks, and it's still on some of my stuff. And every time I see it, I just facepalm. And then a friend of mine came up to me. He owns another successful business here. He goes, "Buck, your name's pretty awful." I'm like, "Man, I know." So I was 6 months into the business, and he's like, "Man, Integrity Inspection Service would be good for you." And I'm like, "Man, I like the sound of that." So we immediately switched names. Let's see, that was at the beginning of 2018, we switched names to Integrity Inspection Service. So I started doing inspections in 2017.
Okay.
Before that, I was a licensed home improvement. Yeah, so I was a licensed home improvement contractor. Before that, I've done home improvements and trades just about my entire adult life. It was since I graduated from the University of Tennessee. I'm a huge Vols fan, by the way, but we were talking about that. I graduated from UT, in the real UT, and
thank you.
In 2004. The real UT.
Yep.
Yeah, I know you'll have these Texas people watching.
Oh yeah.
So
they're not going to watch long.
Just to see what kind of idiot hillbilly you got on your channel. So yeah.
As soon as we started bashing Texas, they're like, "Nope, I'm out."
Hey, just wait till they come to the SEC.
Oh, they're in for a rude awakening.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Well, Oklahoma kind of scares me. So, but Texas, we'll see. Anyway, so I'm in East Tennessee. I actually own the term hillbilly because I'm local. So anyway, grew up outside of Knoxville. And anyway, what you've heard about East Tennessee is mostly true to some degree. So anyway, that's who I am. I love doing what I get to do.
Awesome. So you have to share, what was the first name of the company?
Oh, Integrity Inspection Service.
The
first name of the company.
The terrible one.
Okay. So I was totally going into sales, and so the name of the company was going to be, or was, Agents Choice Inspections.
Oh, that's horrible. No, I'm just teasing.
It's horrible, man.
No, that's fine. I mean,
no. So we're like, do what?
I mean, anybody, honestly, in my opinion, anybody that says that you don't have to use agents and stuff I think they're fooling themselves. At least starting out. These guys are. I've never once walked into an agent's office. I've never talked to an agent. Okay, cool. I don't know how you did it. Probably took you 10 times longer, maybe. I don't know. But, I mean, it's...
Yeah, and we wanted, and that was the thing. I recognized out of the gate that I was going to need to, that we needed real estate agents. I recognized that out of the gate. And so I'm like, how can I give off something that maybe isn't as scary to agents? Because I'd heard at that point that new home inspectors were scary. So I'm like, how can I do something that's not scary for agents? And then I realized that after a while, I'm like, yeah, that looks so biased. That name
Right.
looks so
Yeah.
biased, and
No, I could
the
see
optics
that
of
for
it are
sure.
so bad.
So,
And I
so
hated the name
along
the
that
entire time
same
I had it.
lines, what advice would you give, looking back now, to a new guy getting into the industry, as far as, not choosing agent's choice inspections for their company name, but but I mean, just starting out kind of thing.
Um, Man, okay. So one of the first things I did, I'll tell you kind of how we started and how we got traction. So I did a lot of home advisor. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I was doing a lot of remodeling projects still as I was starting the business. Didn't have a lot of time for marketing, so I was like, well, how can I get my name out there? How can I do something?
Right.
And it costs an absolute fortune. You've got to be the first person to call back. Half the time you're having to undercut people, and they're calling you back and say someone else is going to do it for $50 cheaper. And you're like, well, I'll do it for 75 less, so
Right.
you're
Yeah.
just doing everything you can to get your name out there. But we got a lot of traction. Well, I mean, I'm the number one reviewed person on Home Advisor in this area. But we got a lot of traction on Home Advisor. And through Home Advisor, we picked up our first agent, who tragically died of a brain aneurysm recently. She wasn't that old.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
She was about 43, 44. Yeah. That was a shocker. But that was the first agent I ever picked up that started referring me. And it's because I did an inspection for one of her clients. She liked what we did. I'd say the main thing is, however someone gets out there, do a good job.
Yeah.
Listen, ask a lot of questions. I mean, we go out there in the field and we feel like we're supposed to know everything. You're a new guy. You
Right.
don't know everything. When I was new, I thought I knew everything. And so it's like, man, I didn't ask enough questions. But it's also like, so we're talking about Facebook and stuff too. You got to know where to ask questions.
100%.
And when you ask
That's what I was going to hit
questions,
on in a minute.
people have to know where to ask questions. I mean, for me, I found some mentors. I found some people that would guide me in the right direction. I found the people that I knew I could trust. And I'm probably one of the biggest smart asses on some of the groups. Like, people will post, "Don't be a smart ass." And I'm like, well, thank you for permission.
Right.
So it's not being hateful, but it's like, man, these aren't safe places. And,
Yeah.
the world's not safe. The home inspection field's not safe. We're going to get beat up. And if we can't handle it, then we're not, and I'm not being mean about that. But at the same time, I found a couple local guys, a couple other guys that I could hit up on Messenger, or that I could call, that I could send pictures to. I've got a big background in the trades, which helped a lot. And so it's just knowing who you can trust, finding a mentor. I've mentored. I look around, and like some of my stiffest competition, like my level of company and a little bit below, are guys that I started mentoring. Like, as soon as I came into the industry, people were calling me, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing either, but you're welcome to get on the truck and ride with me. And so I've probably had 10 to 15 guys ride with me. I've had 5 or 6 of them have started their own business now and been real successful. Competition doesn't scare me, because it's like the competition drives us and makes us better.
Absolutely.
Like, we've got some guys here in Knoxville. We're constantly talking. We've got a couple messenger chats that we're just constantly talking, because we believe that the challenge and the drive and seeing what other people are doing, we ask questions, we answer honestly, which is hard sometimes. And it's beautiful, because it drives us to be better, all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things our industry is lacking. Do what? Go ahead.
I was agreeing with you basically. I was gonna hit on the Facebook groups. You're absolutely right. We know each other from one of the kind of tucked away groups called Uncensored, right? And it's a private group that we're kind of selective about who gets in there, and we give each other a lot of crap. I mean, the guys in there, it's about 1,000 people, I think, but we give each other a lot of crap. But I feel like we are all pretty smart inspectors and pretty knowledgeable. And I couldn't agree anymore with you about knowing where to ask the questions. We get hit on that group a lot because we're mean or whatever, and some of us go into some of the other groups, the Internachi group, the exchange. There's Preston's group, which there's a market for all of them. And you've heard, I know you've read this before on a post that I've done, because people will come in and say, "Oh, you're mean" or whatever. There is a certain level of competency that you need to have to be charging people money to inspect their home. There's nothing wrong with not knowing everything. Heck, neither one of us know everything, but there's that certain level that you have to be at. And when somebody hires you, they're expecting you to be at that level. If you're not, there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to find that mentor, find that training class or whatever, or take a step back and do some more studying on things. Do some more free inspections for your buddies or something.
And I agree. The thing that I think where for me the real learning curve is developing my process. And how do you go through a house and not miss things? That was a large part of the learning curve for me. But I think for younger inspectors, I mean, I've still got guys that message me and say, "Hey, Buck, I haven't seen this before." And they shoot me a message and I'm like, "Hey, get that from that other angle." And the main thing is, and I think the thing in the home inspector groups is that what we don't like, and I'll say we don't like it, is that it seems like so many people, it's not just a lack of competency, it's an appearance of no desire to go after more competency. So it's one thing to admit that we don't know anything. I mean, everybody doesn't know everything, like we were talking about. But it's another thing to not try to get better. And I think that's one of the main things that you'll see is, did you Google it first?
Right.
What did you find? Did you go look on the Internachi pages? Well, I mean, what did you find? Inspectopedia. It's stuff like that. And I think that's where a large part of the problem is that people, I mean, there was this one new guy, you probably know who I'm talking about. I just remembered his name, but I'm not going to say it. but I mean, it was like 3 or 4 times a day he was asking these questions. And it's just like, it's the same guy over and over and over. And it's just like, bro, find a mentor, go ride with somebody.
Yeah, there was a guy that was kind of doing that, and my first question to him every time would be, "Are you still in training, or are you on a live are you on a paid inspection kind of thing?" And the first time he answered me that he was, "Oh yeah, it's an inspection. I'm getting paid for it or whatever." I'm just like, okay, this answer is going to be, you're not going to like it, Just, I mean, and if you look through my text messages, if you look through my Facebook messages, I've probably asked some of the dumbest questions in the world. But you know what I just said? My messages, not the Facebook group that everybody in the world can see and prospective clients can see. So I message my mentors. I message, my buddy. There's 2 guys in San Antonio. We've got that group text or that group Facebook message going on. And eventually I want to get them on here. It's going to be like a recurring segment. Like quarterly is what I'm kind of thinking, where we all just get on and kind of shoot the crap, but promote each other's businesses or promote our businesses here in San Antonio.
So I remember my first troll post to the Internachi group, and I just couldn't resist it. But it was a water heater, and the TPR extension was coming down right in front of the label plate or in front of the label,
Right.
And so I took the picture where you couldn't see how many gallons were in the water heater, and I took the picture and posted it on the Internachi page and said, hey, does anybody know how many gallons this water heater is? Dude, it blew up.
That's hilarious.
I could see it. So anyway, no, so it's funny, but but at the same time, it's that old saying, the rising tide raises all ships.
Absolutely. Yep.
And it's really the rising tide raises all seaworthy ships.
There you go.
So it's go out there, challenge each other, and really, it's the inspectors are really, it's really a brotherhood. Although I'm not in that Facebook group, but it really is, because it's a unique industry, and it's how can we challenge each other. The uncensored group, a lot of times we're just blowing off steam. Right. And it's funny that people get less upset, less offended, and more real in the uncensored group than they do anywhere else. And it's really funny. It's because once you remove that idea of censorship, people know, they know what they're getting. So people actually behave better in the group that shouldn't be as well behaved, or doesn't.
No, you're right. And like I said, I think the collection of knowledge in that group, I think, is pretty high. But they know that if you come in and ask a question that we deem unworthy, I don't know what that really means, because anything can be deemed unworthy, I guess. That you got to be prepared to eat a little crow potentially, and. Yeah. If you can handle it, cool. If you can't,
I'm really good at deleting. Just delete the post as quick as you can.
Exactly.
Like, wait a minute, I could have Googled that.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So I'm going to read down. Let me look at the little pre interview sheet here, just so I don't forget anything. Talk about dealing with burnout. I tell you, this last year was probably my busiest year. I hired a guy and ended up letting him go, and didn't have, I'd already built up the tempo to sustain 2 inspectors, and then it was just me again. And so, yeah, I definitely dealt with some of that. Over the summer. The heat in Texas is nothing to play with. So how's your experience with burnout?
Yeah. So, I think that, first off, I think that, we do have a lot more awareness of things like burnout now than we did before. I think part of it is just our society moves at such a fast pace. You've got information coming at you from all over the place, and maybe I'm just a little bit of a pansy, but but burnout is real. It's for me, it's an emotional, just where, like, how much more can I take? And it's everything from clients blowing you up at 9 o'clock at night, which I want to make sure my clients get all their questions answered. Oh, yeah. But it's just, you have some that are relentless, and then you have agents that can be relentless. You got agents that want to argue with you over things. And it's just, sometimes I'm like, I understand they got a lot of money on the line, but anyway, I understand that, but all we're doing, we're just doing the best we can do ourselves. Anyway, all that, to me, just getting to that point, how do you come back from that? I think I was talking to somebody recently. One thing is, I've got a business coach. I'm in one of the inspector coaching groups. I don't know if you want me to mention it or not.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I love them. Yeah. So I'm in IEB. I used to be a lot more involved than I am right now. But IEB has been phenomenal. I think they're probably the best, but I'd say people that are in other groups think those groups are the best too. But I've also got a personal business coach. But I'd say the biggest thing that I've done is I've set boundaries. I've just had to set boundaries in my life. like, and this is something that will make a lot of inspectors be like, say what? But no, I don't do Saturday inspections. I don't do Sunday inspections. I stopped a couple of years ago. I'm like, I can't continue at this pace. I've got 4 kids. The youngest is 2 years old. The oldest is 10. And they need their father worse than somebody needs a home inspection on Saturday.
Right. Yep.
And like, I want to go serve people, but my kids need a father more than that. And I'm happy to refer somebody to someone else. But generally, if someone calls and they're kind of insistent, I'm like, I'm happy to refer you to somebody else. But I normally just tell people I'm already booked.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, I've booked time with my family.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And
You have to.
it's taking the time. Yeah, it's saying, what are the biggest priorities in my life? And scheduling the things that are the priorities first. And I think that goes in a lot of things with business. Like, how many of us actually stop to work on our business? Maybe if we take that time and we schedule that time first instead of trying to schedule it around inspections, it would change our businesses. Maybe if we had better business systems and better business systems, man, you want to talk about getting rid of burnout? Automation is a big way to get over burnout, because now you're not worried about, did I
back
do
office
this?
stuff with Spectora?
Yeah. I just switched from ISN, so that's because down with Porch. I don't want somebody. I won't say that, but
that's fine.
Porch has just do what?
That's fine. I mean, like we were talking about in the pre thing. Everybody's. I want everybody to be able to state their opinions, but I just want to draw the lines at bashing and stuff like that. And that's not for you. That's for future stuff.
Yeah,
I know you won't.
So I won't bash, but from my perspective, I'll say it that way. From my perspective, Porch has just crossed some lines. They with data aggregation,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to come after clients' data, and the new app that's actually going into people's reports and getting ages of equipment and all that kind of stuff, so they can market later on. And so that's another thing. So, but anyway, that doesn't help with burnout. That just gets you fired up and drains more emotional energy. But burnout, what I found is you've got to be able to take a step back. And if we don't take a step back as we're getting to that, or even before it, man, it catches up to you, and it catches up to you big. And it will hurt our businesses more in the long run, because our attitudes won't be as good. We'll piss people off. And all of a sudden, people that trusted us won't trust us anymore. We hurt those relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the biggest advice I can give anybody is protect their time, or set their boundaries. Maybe it's not time for everybody, but for whatever those boundaries are, set personal boundaries and live by it. Like Chick-fil-A, that Chick-fil-A set a boundary, and they've lived by it.
Drives me crazy,
but
I respect them for it.
Man, I always want that Jesus chicken after church on Sunday.
Yeah, I was just saying, nobody wants Chick-fil-A more than people on Sundays.
Yeah. But so that's the biggest thing with burnout. But it's that you go, and you're trying to achieve a goal, and at some point it's just it's our mental health and all that, to me, has become way more important than trying to get to 18 inspectors and build a $1 million company or whatever else.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I was listening to another podcast. This was probably 2 months ago by now, and he was kind of talking the same thing of Wednesday mornings. He schedules it. It's office time to catch up with office things, and then like you, I don't do Sunday. I've now, in 6 years, I've never done an inspection on Sunday. I have a couple of agents that I will do Saturday for. They know I don't want to, but if they get into a bind, I've had them call me and be like, look, this sellers being a real pain, or whatever. Can we push, because it was like supposed to be Friday or something? Can we push the inspection back till tomorrow? Or I know you don't want to, kind of thing. Uh, and they know that if I can, I'll do it for them. But if somebody calls me, yeah, I mean, if you go into my online scheduler, Saturday's not available. If somebody just calls me, Saturday's not available. Because I agree. I did 20 years in the Air Force, and so I have what's today? 1 week from today. So next Monday, my oldest will be 16. My youngest just turned 14 yesterday. So for the last 10, 15 years, let's see, I retired 6 years ago. So I guess the 10 years prior to that, my job in the Air Force was to travel for the most part. So I wasn't there for most anything, I mean, getting them on the bus, getting them off the bus, whatever day, breakfast, bring dad to breakfast day, or, whatever they were having at school. And I wasn't there for that. So when I retired, it was, I went into this profession, one, because I had the construction background in the Air Force and grew up around it and stuff like that. And it kind of fit my niche, but also because I could control my own schedule, So I get the girls on the bus. If I want to walk out there as the bus comes up to drop them off, I can, and it's been very rare that I haven't been able to go to a school function or be here for them. So just from that perspective, that's one of the reasons I love, one, home inspection, but two, being my own boss. I didn't want to have a boss. I didn't want to be a boss. I've grown to where I feel like I need to hire somebody here and there, and do some more of that automation stuff. I actually, was that yesterday, I think? No, yesterday. Today's Monday. So Saturday, I sat in my office out here working on a little bit of automation and stuff on trying to set some emails up to automatically send that I'd been sending by myself, when I needed to. Because just like the if they hadn't paid the invoice, because I still use ISN, so they can't read the email. I mean, they can't read the report unless it's paid, right? So I've had a couple that, like warranty inspections, I'll go out and I'll do the inspection, and I don't require payment up front. Maybe I probably should, because I haven't gotten burned really yet, but I've had a couple that I've had to follow up on a week or two later. So I just set up an email that, goes out if it's marked unpaid 7 days after the inspection, and just say, hey, you've got an outstanding invoice. Is there any questions with anything, or was there any issues? So just stuff like that. So I agree with you 100%. Scheduling the time off, setting up that automation, and setting boundaries. So 100% on board with you on that.
So something else with the ISN, we can jump on that a little bit. ISN, and this is the best I can figure, because they have so many canned emails, every email I sent from ISN would go straight to someone's spam folder.
Yeah, my understanding of that was it's a coding issue or something, I guess. I don't know. I'm not techie.
I don't know, but so with Spectora, I don't have that problem, is what I know.
Gotcha.
So the other thing that I did do what?
Is it good to know? I mean,
what are you saying?
I said just good to know that Spectora doesn't have those issues, because 6 years of dealing with a text that goes out saying, "Hey, if you don't see an email, check your spam," kind of thing. So,
and that's the other thing I was going to say is I still follow up. I mean, automated emails go out telling people text messages go out. So, but that reduces the workload a ton. Just as much as you can possibly automate things. But other boundaries I've set, like I'll do a summary on site. I'm happy to do a summary on site, but I've started, if someone's not on site, that phone call at the end, where you're answering 50 questions and you're on the phone for 30 minutes and you're
Right.
trying to talk through things, but it doesn't really go well because it's just a phone call and you're trying to explain things because you can't show it to them. I've now just, one of my boundaries I've set is I'll call you if anything is major. But if I don't find anything major, let me get the report to you first so then I can answer any questions you have.
Right.
And I've just set that as a boundary for myself because I realized it allows me to be able to focus on everything else I need to do. Because it's that one phone call for me I realized was always problematic. So now I'm just like, you know what? If I recognize that as a problem, I'm going to focus on what I can do well. And what I can do really well is spend that 30 minutes getting the report out quicker. So they've got that in their hand, knowing that it will answer most of their questions.
Yeah.
So that's a boundary that I'm trying to set.
I
Yeah.
deal with a lot of military coming in and out. So a lot of, I mean, probably 50% of the time, the client's not even in town when I'm doing an inspection. So yeah, that communication and getting the report out, the setting the communication to set that boundary and the expectation beforehand, and then getting that report out, hoping that, hopefully I answered all their questions in the report, and I don't have to have that 30-minute conversation, to rehash some stuff. But that's our job. I mean, if we need to have that conversation, more than willing to.
Well, it's not even more than willing to. I'm absolutely happy to. I'll spend 2 hours on the phone with you if I need to.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to. I'll tell them, hey, so you mentioned something about your dad. Is your dad going to have questions about this? Okay, great. If that's the situation, have them call me.
Gotcha.
And
Nice.
my main thing is just have them call me. I'm happy to answer questions for them as well. But it's one of the things I do now when someone's calling me about a report is I'll look at it and I'll say, okay, how much time do I have to have this conversation? And if I know I've got 15 minutes before I have to be somewhere else, or if I'm getting ready to sit down for dinner, I've just started saying, if I've got 15 minutes, I'll say 5. But I set that expectation up front. Hey, I have time for a 5-minute phone call right now. It was 5 minutes enough to answer your question. And sometimes I'll say, well, yeah, that's enough. Or if it's not enough, be like, great. Okay, well, I'm sitting down with my kids. I'm going to put my kids down for bed about 8:30. Can I call you back after that? And so, but I'm very upfront about setting the expectations, because what I found is I'd answer the phone and I'd start having that conversation. Now this phone call's been an hour and a half and I've missed dinner and then missed the kids' bedtimes and missed all the important things. So I'm just very, very upfront, and it protects me, but it helps them have a better experience, because now they're getting my undivided attention without kids screaming in the background.
No, that's gold right there.
So we've just started scheduling, like we schedule follow-up calls as much as we possibly can. And, it's part of this job. I enjoy talking with people and helping people. Another burnout thing that I learned is we're not a hero. And I think that's one of the biggest things home inspectors need to realize, is that we're nobody's hero. We're a guide in the process. And that's directly from a Donald Miller book, Building a Story Brand. And when we look at that, we realize that they're the protagonist and the hero of their own story. We're just a guide that comes in along part of the process that helps them make their decision. It's not our decision to make. It's not our job to sway them. It's our job to give them the information so they can make the decisions that are best for them and their families. But that takes so much pressure off when you realize you're not a hero. And the other thing is, I realized that and we don't get a ton of callbacks anyway. I've never gotten a lot of callbacks. But when I switched from communicating like a guide I mean, switched from communicating like a hero to communicating like a guide, callbacks stopped. They stopped because now all of a sudden I'm communicating and setting the expectation with my clients that it's their decision and that I'm here just to give them information and to help guide them along part of the process. But man, that was one of the most freeing revelations I had. And it came from that book, is that I'm not the hero. I'm just a guide.
No, that's a great way to put that. I like that.
Man, I can't even. Yeah. And that's a part of the problem, going back to the home inspector forums, that's part of the problem with the home inspector forums and the way people talk to each other is that we all think we're heroes and we think everybody else is the villain. So we villainize people that disagree with us because we have to be the heroes of our own stories.
I'm probably
and we
guilty.
realize that we're just a guide, especially with a military background, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, well, it was funny when I hired that guy. I mean, he'd been in the Army when he was younger, but he was an older guy. I think he was in his 50s, late 50s. But coming from such a military background where I mean, if I tell you to do something, or if I'm told to do something, you do it. I mean, there's not, not really much question to it. And the first time you tell somebody to do something and they're like, but why? Or what do you mean? I'm not doing that. And you're just like, wait, what? What do you mean? I haven't had to deal with this before. What do you mean? You're not going to do that? So failure on my part, lesson learned that I need to change my leadership style. Yeah, no, I like that, guide versus being a hero. That's a good way to put that.
Yeah, and it changes. It's a humbling position. So, but it's when you watch Star Wars, it's a good example. Or do we think that we're Luke Skywalker, or do we think we're Yoda? Yoda's the guide, right? Luke Skywalker's the hero. But we all think that we're the hero on the way to blow up someone's Death Star. Of course,
Right.
we see these houses we inspect as the Death Star getting ready to destroy our clients' lives, and we think it's our job as Luke Skywalker to go blow it up for them. I mean, that's not what a home inspection is.
I think we've all been to that house too. But and that's one thing to learn too is you do these really nice houses, and then you go to that one house that is like, you wouldn't put an enemy in there, but that's what your client can afford. That's their spot in life right now. And so you've got to really rein back your personal opinions, no matter what it is, and I'm sure I've shown my hand on that before, where I walk in, the client's standing beside me and I'm just looking around like, what the hell, and then you realize, oh crap, this is where they're at, and I'm acting like a real jackass right now, unintentionally. I mean, you're not there to try to be a jerk, but just it's a lesson to learn.
And what you realize in that perspective is, okay, if I'm a guide in this process, then how can I guide them into, if this is the best they can afford? Let's say it's the best they can afford, or especially last year with the housing market, man, people bidding 50 to 75,000 over. And so then they come into this house and they've got it as is, no repairs, they at least got a home inspection. So it's like, but then you're like, okay, how can I talk them through some of these repairs? How can I walk alongside them so that they can make this house the best it can be for them? How can I become a resource to help that client in the future? Because it's the best they can afford, and they can't really afford repairs, but that they're still saving $1,000 a month by buying instead of renting.
Right.
And so you're like, how can I walk alongside these people so that this can be the best home it can be? And that's kind of been my perspective on that, and really coach them through it. My cousin was buying a house a couple weeks ago, I mean, and that floor system was eaten up with termites. It was just garbage. And I looked at him, and he's younger than me. He's 23, 24, buying his first house. And I said, I looked at him. I said, man, you're young. You got a lot of energy. I'll come over and I'll tell you how to fix it. I'll help you any way I can, but I'm not going to do the work for you. If this is the house you want, if you think this is the best you can get and this is what you want, I'll do anything I can to help you in it, but I'm not going to fix it for you because you've got to do it yourself. Right. And I talked to him a couple of days later. He's like, man, I read that report and I just got out of it. He goes, in his thing, he goes, it needed too much work for the little bit of equity he was getting in it. And I'm like, that's a good way to think about it. You know, so because he's not in a hurry to buy. He still lives at home with his parents. He doesn't have to be in a hurry to buy. He's got a good job, got a lot of cash saved up. He's looking for the right house, and that's good for him in his situation. But I don't know everybody's situation, and I can't pretend like I do. And that comes back to asking a lot of questions. You know, you ask people a lot of questions so you can tailor your communication to the person you're looking at.
It's a good points. Good points. All right. So moving off of home inspections, just to kind of start winding this down to wrap it up a little bit. 2 pieces of advice. One for whoever, clients or agents or whatever. Just throw out 2 pieces of advice.
2 pieces of advice. First piece of advice I'm going to steal from Andy Stanley that I heard a long time ago, and it's one of the sermons that has sat with me for years. And the first sermon, and this one is there a tension you need to pay attention to? And so one of the biggest pieces of advice is when we have a tension in our lives, whether it's an agent trying, thinking they found a good house for somebody, whether it's somebody buying a house, whether it's a home inspector, what is that tension? An example of that, man, I was walking out of a house one time and I just had a tension there. Like there was just something there. And I turned around and walked back in. And what had happened is the last thing I realized I'd forgotten to unstop a drain upstairs. It was one of the last things I did. So I unstopped the drain as I was leaving the house. And I'm like, man, I just need to walk back through this house one more time. And I came back down and the drain on the tub was leaking and it was coming through the ceiling. But I would have missed it if I hadn't paid attention to that tension.
Yep.
So is there a tension you need to pay attention to? And it's just, man, it's however someone wants to describe that. If there's a tension, deal with it. Just deal with that tension. The other piece of advice that I would give somebody is that, and it comes from burnout, place of burnout, is don't put things off. Whatever that is that's on you, weighing on you, write it down, make a plan, and tackle a little bit of it at a time. Whatever that big thing is that's overwhelming, because a lot of times in our life, especially for me, I procrastinate. So it's like, okay, this elephant's pretty big. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So how can I look at that elephant and say, okay, what is the first bite I need to take out of this big mother effer? And take that bite, break it down into little steps, take the bite and do it. Because you know what? You're going to have to live with that stress until you take a step in doing it. And so, because it's going to stay. They don't go away, man. Those elephants don't go away.
Yeah, I'm terrible about procrastination.
Yeah. I have to have pressure. And that's been one of my things. I thrive under pressure, but it's also one of the things that's, put me into burnout was that I let too many things pile up and it was too much pressure to the point that I was ready to break. I mean, I was at my breaking point. And that's one of the biggest things is just starting to say, okay, what are the steps I need to take? And you know what I figured out? Most of those elephants were just like little bitty chickens.
Yeah.
And you just got to. They weren't as big as they looked.
Yep. You let your mind trick you. But no, yeah, I'm the same way with procrastination and letting things pile up. Recognition is key, man. Uh, and we've all failed at that, I'm sure. But learning to recognize when things start to build up and stuff like that, I think is vital for new inspectors, for old inspectors, for non-inspectors, just people in life. So great advice. I like that.
Hey, and one more piece of advice: bet on the Vols. That's the third piece.
I'm not sure that's going to happen much. I'll like we were talking before we started recording. Go Big Blue, Kentucky Wildcats for life. At least when it comes to basketball, I don't have a whole lot of leg to stand on for the last few years, but go Big Blue.
Yeah.
So speaking of the Tennessee Volunteers and all of their shortcomings, congratulations on a good basketball season this year, good football season, but there's still a lot of shortcomings. Now, what'd you say? They're the winningest university in all of sports, like when you combine everything together, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So the Tennessee has the winningest across all sports. That probably, I think that includes volleyball, track, football,
Right, yeah.
baseball,
Tiddlywinks.
but across all tiddlywinks, rowing, but whatever it is,
Right.
Math Olympiads.
Right.
So, but yeah, Tennessee has the winningest athletic department in college sports.
I did not know that.
So,
I did not know that. Good stuff. What else
it's the right
besides
culture.
Tennessee college, university athletics? What other stuff do you like to do?
We go boating a lot during the summer. We camp a lot. I like to go overlanding and go. We do a lot of camping. I've got a couple camping trips. I think I've got 3 or 4 on the schedule already this year,
Nice.
and doing a lot of off-roading, that kind of thing. So
I've heard of overlanding, but I
I
don't
think
really know what it is.
overlanding is the bougie word for camping while off-roading.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
So it's so all these bougie people with expensive tents on top of their cars that go out and camp in the middle of nowhere off the trails. That's overlanding. Now I just put a tent in the back of mine because I'm not that bougie. I don't have $3,000 to drop on a tent when I can buy one for $50 from Walmart.
Right. I know. Like, so we were talking IEB a little bit ago, and if you don't know what that is, it's Inspector Empire Builder. I did their RGT training. It's a 2-day, I think, rapid growth training, I think is what they call it. 2 days of just filling you full of information. I agree. IEB is awesome. I'm not a member, like a monthly member or anything, but I did their RGT, and I've talked to a bunch of those guys. Blake Williams is awesome. He came down here, took me to lunch when I was first starting out, and just implored some wisdom into me free of charge, and that was awesome. But I know they have an overlanding
Blake
group.
Is my hero.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But I just want to say Blake is my hero. Like he's one of my favorite guys I've ever met.
Same
but
here.
He does the overlanding with IU.
Yeah, do you join in with them guys or
when I can? When it's not across the country.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, and the thing I love about IEB, if I can, is there's a lot of business systems we need to know, and they get into the business systems. But the first thing is the way we believe and our mindset. And so what's cool about IEB is they start with the mindset. Mm-hmm. And because they start with our mindset, it's developed a great culture. It's a culture of the rising tide raises all ships. It's a culture of sharing, a culture of trying to help everybody succeed as much as possible. And so IEB has it's been phenomenal. I mean, every time I'd come back from training that had nothing to do, I mean, it was a business training. Every time I'd go to a conference, RGT or Unite or any of those things, my wife would say, "I like you more when you came back. Like I like you more." And so, because it makes it really impacts who you are as an entire person. And we're entrepreneurs. Our businesses are us, and we are our businesses as much as we try to draw that line. And until we deal with us, we're not going to grow. We're not going to find that success that we want, or the whatever. We're not going to find that. And so we have to realize that back in the home inspection business thing is that we're the bottleneck to our own companies. And so once we realize that we're our own bottleneck, it can change everything. And because we realize where we want to go and what's stopping us. And most of the time, what's stopping us is ourselves. And success will happen as soon as we learn how to get away or get out of our own way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So
I tell people I've failed forward so much that I'm surprised I'm still going, but I've been lucky.
yeah,
Been lucky to have some real good people in my corner that I've been able to pull some experience from and stuff like that. So, no, that's great. Yeah, IEB. I'm going to throw a link in the description when I finish this thing. I couldn't say I'm not a monthly member or a membership level kind of guy on that, but I couldn't say enough good things about him. We could sit here and have an entire podcast just talking about RGT and Blake and Mark and all those guys, because just the free stuff that they throw out there is amazing.
So, and the other thing I would say is the Unite conference, even if someone can't, doesn't want to be a monthly member or doesn't want to whatever, the Unite conference that's generally in May, I don't even know what the dates are. The Unite conference is open to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we look at all these other conferences, man, I've seen enough tools. I know what tools I need. Mm-hmm. I've bought like 4 sets of them already. Like I've seen enough sewer scopes and enough this and enough gimmicks and people trying to sell me crap. You know what, man, we don't need all the tools we buy. We don't need them. What we need is to learn how to run our businesses better. And that's what Unite does. And that's what IEB does, is they help us learn to run our businesses better. And so I encourage anybody that's there at burnout, because that's, man, the first, man, you're going to get me going on this. But the first time I saw Greg on the IEB, I saw the IEB Unite advertisement, and I started watching on their website, and he was talking about his burnout. And when I saw that video, man, I just started crying. Crying like a little baby. And my wife's like, "What the heck's wrong with you?" And so I'm like, listen to this guy and listen to him. He gets it. And I was like, I've got to go. So when I watched the advertisement for Unite, I was like, I knew I had to be there. I knew that there was something for me there.
Yeah,
and that's how
Austin
I got
was in Austin, right?
I didn't make it to the last one.
Okay.
So the last Unite was in Dallas last May.
Okay.
So
there was one
not
in
Dallas,
in
Houston.
Austin, which is an hour from me, and I was going to go to it. I can't remember. Something came up. Something conflicted, so I didn't make it to it. But yeah, I really wanted to try to make it out there, but didn't. And I need to. Personally, for my business, need to look more into becoming a member. I just saw that they came out with it's a monthly membership, but it's cheaper because it's all on demand rather than having to tune into live calls and stuff like that. So I may look into something like that.
Yeah.
I said we're going to get off the home inspection side, but that's what we are. So it's always going to come back to it, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, man, you can You can take a home inspector. I'm not even going to go there. But you can't take the home inspection out of the home inspector.
Yeah.
There you
No.
go.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Man. Yeah. So anyway, man, any other topics you want to cover?
No, not really. Really, just like I said, I wanted to. I don't think we've actually ever talked before this. I mean, other than on Facebook and stuff like that, in the chats and in the groups. Uh, but so I really just wanted to sit down. One, for me to get to know you. Two, for hopefully your market to get to know you, and we'll share the podcast, and hopefully you'll like it enough to blast it out to your market and stuff like that, and get some benefit out of it. Uh, so that's really what I really want the goal of this whole thing to be, is to just help each other. Whether I'll get some SEO and some market share just from you know being the host or whatever I am, the the ringleader. But I really want to talk to people all over the nation and stuff, and not just inspectors, but transaction coordinators, real estate agents, stuff like that, and just impart some knowledge and stuff like that to each other. So, but man, I really appreciate you coming on uh, and being my first guest. You kind of were the catalyst for me, really, because I'd been thinking about doing a podcast, even if it's just like more videos and stuff on Facebook videos and stuff for things that we find. But there was always that nervous barrier. One, I'm not a good speaker, and in my if you watch the intro video, I always tell people, I have a face for radio and a voice for newsprint. But you can't grow if you're inside your little bubble. So this is my attempt, and I appreciate everybody that's coming on. I appreciate you coming on. But you had sent me a message and said, "Hey, man, we should do this podcast where we just kind of get on and BS and kind of make fun of some of the silly posts and stuff that we see in Facebook or in some of the groups and stuff." And I thought, man, I really that's kind of God works in mysterious ways, and you sending that message was kind of the catalyst I needed, I guess, the kick in the butt that I needed to, let me do this. I've been thinking about it for too long. So I appreciate
and sometimes we need a catalyst. Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you having me on here. And sometimes we need a catalyst. Like somebody said something to me last week, something been on my heart, and mine's just having a prayer group. Just getting people together and praying for each other.
Yeah, I saw you post something about that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. But somebody said something to me, and I'm like, you know what? I just need to go ahead and do that. Like, and it was just so. Sometimes we just think we need that kick. We need that reminder, because I feel like when we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and giving what we're supposed to be giving, man, you're not going to be able to contain. You're not going to be able to contain what's coming into your life.
And I can't remember from the post. Is that are you doing that an online group, or is that a group in your neighborhood kind of thing?
Oh man, you're gonna get me started. So we started a in-person group about 3.5 years ago, where we come together, and then we got 3 chapters of that going. We call the BPPA, which is the Business and Professional Prayer Association. So we have 3 chapters of the BPPA started locally, that we literally come around, we sit around, talk to each other, network a little bit, but then we focus on praying for each other and praying over each other's businesses. So what we started online is similar, but I called it the weekly kickstart, and it's just a quick devotional. We're going to change who does that every week. And then it's a time where people can say, hey, what's on your heart this week? What's on your goals this week? What are you struggling with? Or whatever that is, but give people just a second to share. If it grows or when it grows, we'll probably have to change that format or change something about it. But more than anything, it's just a real quick get together on Monday morning and quick devotional. And pray for each other and pray over businesses and just ask the Lord to show up in people's businesses during the week.
Good stuff.
And so I'll
give
tell
that
you
a little bit more of a
the
plug
funny
and
thing.
share how people can plug into that.
Well, yeah, I can send you a link. I can send you the Zoom link for that. But I'll tell you this, it's really a testament already. Like, this is our busiest week. Like, I did that, and all of a sudden today my phone's been blowing up. It's funny how that works. And I'm not saying that you have to do something to earn something or earn favor. We can't earn favor with God. He loves us anyway. But it's like when we're giving and we're pouring, we have to pour ourselves out to make room for what he wants to pour in. And so that's just it. We give and we pour ourselves out, love the people around us the best we can, and that makes room for him to pour back into our lives. And so a lot of times when we're stagnant or burned out, I mean, being burned out is just being stagnant. It's just you got to empty your cup so there's room for what God wants in your cup.
That's some stuff I needed to hear right there. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, so let's wrap it up. Yeah, as I say, I'm going to have to break out the tissues here in a little bit. So let's wrap this up. So plug yourself one more time, where people can find you, website, all that stuff.
All right, I'm Buck with Integrity Inspection Service out of Knoxville. I'm a home inspector by trade. I'm a father by who I am. That's who I am. And I'm somebody that just tries to love people. I want to love the person I'm in front of. My website for my home inspection business is integrityknox.com. My phone number for the business is 865-401-0111. And I'm a Tennessee volunteer of All for Life.
All right.
Just like to plug that.
Absolutely.
There you go.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, man. That was awesome. I think this is a great episode, great inaugural episode for us. And I just appreciate you being here. I appreciate you as a person. I liked you before, and now I got a hell of a lot more respect for you as a man. So I think you're doing things right, and I appreciate it. So any last parting words before I stop this?
No, man. Hey, thanks for letting me come on, and thanks for being obedient and following what you feel like you should do. Awesome. Man, that's it. That's all we can do is just be obedient, man.
There you go. Great last sentence there. So we'll cut it off here, and I appreciate you, and we'll talk with you later.
All right, thanks, man.
All rights to this production are the sole property of me, Shannon Gatewood. So keep your grubby hands off, muchacho.